Credit cards are brilliant tools wrapped in terrible incentives. The bank hands you a piece of plastic that buys time, points, buyer protection, and convenience, and then sets the board so a single tired month can turn that convenience into a 24.99% subscription. Most advice swings to extremes: cut them up and live on cash, or become a 10-card optimizer who tracks spend categories like a day trader. Normal people live between those poles. You want a system that survives real Tuesdays, funds your goals quietly, and never lets a statement become a story about shame. 4 rules, simple, durable, and human, can carry you for decades. They're not hacks, they're guardrails. Follow them and you'll keep all the upside of cards while starving the parts designed to make you pay for your own convenience. Rule 1 is brutal in its clarity. The balance is paid in full, automatically, every month, no exceptions. Even if the points are amazing, even if the month was weird, even if you swear you'll catch up next cycle. This is not a moral stance, it's math. Interest on revolving balances compounds against you at a speed that makes your investment returns look shy. The entire game changes the moment a charge survives past the grace period. Paying in full means the bank lent you money for free for up to a month and then received every euro back without a tip. To make this rule stick in a messy life, you need automation and calendar choreography, not pep talks. You set your card to autopay the full statement balance from a checking account that has been fed on purpose. You schedule that autopay for the day before the due date, and you set a calendar nudge a week prior to glance at the statement to catch fraud or errors. You do not trust memory. You trust a setting you chose on a calm evening. The emotional relief of watching interest not accrue is worth more than any lounge access. The points are garnish. Freedom from interest is the meal. Living this rule requires a small stage play in your bank accounts. Your paycheck lands. The day after payday, an automatic transfer sweeps the money you intend to spend on cards into a separate spend checking account. All card autopays pull from that account. You are building a little moat between essential bills and variable card life, so a month of enthusiastic restaurants doesn't set your rent on fire. If your income is inconsistent, you add one more layer, a rolling buffer of 1 month's average card spending parked in that spend account, so you are never depending on a single paycheck lining up perfectly with a due date. You will not maintain this by vibes. You maintain it by automation and by refusing to tolerate just this once balances, which tend to breed. Rule 2 keeps you from spending a raise before you get it. You never swipe what you wouldn't buy with cash today. This is not an anti-credit sentiment. It's a way to force your brain to price reality instead of fantasies. The psychology that breaks budgets is the feeling that tomorrow you will be richer, calmer, and more disciplined than today you, so future you can pay the bill. The second rule drags purchases into the present tense. If you would not hand over cash for the item with today's energy and today's bank balance, the card is pretending. Cards are excellent at hiding the weight of a purchase. You keep that weight visible with this one sentence. Some people use literal cash for a month to reset their instincts. You can do it with a mental check and a 30-second pause. Close your eyes, picture handing over physical bills for the thing, and notice your body. If it balks, so should the card. To make Rule 2 livable, you build a container for card spending that doesn't ask you to do calculus in a checkout line. The container is a weekly reload. Each week on the same day, a fixed amount flows into the spend account that backs your autopay. You choose the number based on your plan, not on last week's moods. The card becomes a payment method inside that container, not a permission slip beyond it. When the container is low, you are low. You don't refill midweek, you adjust behavior, not boundaries. This isn't asceticism. It's design that makes your Tuesday choices add up to something you won't regret when the statement posts. If you need a reset, switch to a debit-like mode for a week. Check the account before a swipe. You are training association. Card equals money you already set aside, not money you hope will exist later. Rule 3 turns rewards from a hobby into a policy. Points never drive purchases, and redemptions serve priorities you wrote down when the screen wasn't flashing. Credit card marketing tries to convert you into a collector whose goal is the largest number, not the most used value. You will be tempted to qualify for bonuses that require spending sprees, to chase category multipliers that tilt you toward restaurants you don't need, to justify annual fees with airport lounges you visit once a year. The antidote is to decide once how rewards fit your life and to run that play without improvisation. Maybe your life values travel. Fine. You pick one flexible points ecosystem and one no-fee flat-rate cashback card. You earn most points on the flexible card, you cash out or transfer for trips you would take anyway, and you pay for everything else with the flat-rate card. Maybe you don't care about flights and hotels. Excellent. You pick a simple cashback setup and let rewards drop into savings or investing on a schedule. What you do not do is buy things to earn points, collect gift cards to hit minimums, or upgrade hotels so a redemption feels worth it. Worth it is a bed that lets you sleep and money that keeps working while you do. Never let points drive purchases becomes easier when you assign every reward euro a job on arrival. If you choose cashback, you set the card to auto-redeem monthly into your Freedom account that funds goals, emergency buffer, car replacement, travel you actually planned, debt paydown. If you choose travel, you keep a single note with your point balances, the trips you intend to fund within 12 months, and the transfer partners you actually use. You book when the trip exists, not because a blog says a sweet spot is expiring. A tiny spreadsheet beat the entire internet of deals because it roots your choices in your calendar. If you hold a premium card, you write down the 3 benefits you use that exceed the fee in cash terms. If you can't list 3, you cancel the card or downgrade when the year turns. The bank counts on you to forget. You count on a note you wrote in your own words. That note will save you hundreds over the next decade because it turns annual fee season into a 5-minute audit instead of a shrug. Rule 4 is how you keep cards from ruling your attention. Accounts must be few, visible, and boring. Few means you hold only as many cards as you can monitor without stress, often one daily driver and one backup that covers a weak category or provides a key benefit, plus any legacy card that helps your credit age without fees. Visible means you can see your balances, due dates, and rewards at a glance in one place you check weekly. Boring means you do not open or close accounts impulsively, you do not play musical chairs with balances, and you do not accept credit line increases that tempt you to inflate your lifestyle, unless your utilization is crushing your score and you'll leave the new limit unused. Complex systems break on bad days. You design for bad days. You will have weeks when you are tired, sick, distracted, or celebrating. Your cards should behave correctly even then. Visibility also means fraud and errors don't get months of head start. Set transaction alerts that ping you for charges above a threshold that would surprise you. Keep your card on your phone's wallet for places where tap to pay reduce the risk of skimmers. Freeze cards instantly when a charge looks wrong, then call the number on the back rather than numbers in emails. Dispute calmly in writing, follow up once. You are not the first person to have this problem. Let the process work while you go live your life. Meanwhile, keep one backup card with a different network, in a separate place, so a fraud hold doesn't strand you at a rental counter or at a hotel desk. Boring redundancy is the difference between an inconvenience and a meltdown. Those are the 4 rules. They are simple on purpose, but simplicity is not the same as naivete. Life will throw edge cases at you. What if a surprise expense is larger than your buffer and hits the card? You pay it, and then you schedule a plan for the next 3 months to erase the balance while cutting low-value spending and redirecting windfalls. You do not normalize carrying interest. You treat it like a kitchen fire. Put it out, clean up, install a better smoke alarm. What if you are already in card debt? You step out of the rewards game until the balances are gone. You list the debts, interest rates, and minimums. You choose Avalanche if you love math or Snowball if you love momentum. You automate payments above minimums to one target balance while paying minimums on the others. You cut the cards physically if you must to break the habit. You renegotiate APRs once, ask for a hardship plan if life is heavy, and move eligible balances to a 0% promo only if the transfer fee is low, and you will finish the job before the promo ends. You are not bad with money. You are a person who needed a plan and now has one.
Credit scores deserve a paragraph because they live in the background of your card life. A good score is a side effect of sane behavior, not a goal worth sacrificing sanity for. Pay on time, keep utilization low, keep your oldest no-fee card open, and avoid new accounts you don't need. Utilization is the percent of your credit limits you are using at the moment the snapshot is taken. If you consistently use more than 30% of your available credit, even if you pay in full, you may see your score droop. 2 fixes. Pay mid-cycle once a month to lower the snapshot. And ask for a limit increase on mature accounts if you can do so without using the extra room to spend. Do not let the score wag the dog. If the best way to stay out of debt is to keep fewer cards even if a mix of accounts would goose a number. Lenders like predictability, your life will like it more. There is an emotional layer to cards that money writers often ignore. For some people, a card swipe is a small adrenaline hit, a way to feel adult and capable. For others, it feels like a trapdoor. Recognize your own cues. If capping your phone makes you spend more than inserting a card, remove cards from your phone's wallet and keep one physical card you must unsheath like a tool, not a toy. If online shopping at night is your spendy place, move your card details out of autofill and into a password manager, so each purchase requires a purposeful copy-paste. If restaurants are the category that eats your plan, preload a small amount on a separate card you use only for dining and stop when it stops. These are not moral choices, they're switches that make your defaults honest. Couples can turn credit cards into choreography instead of conflict. Agree on the 4 rules in your shared language, write them, and let them live on the fridge for a month. Decide which expenses hit which card, who watches statements, when money leaves checking, and how rewards are used. Run the week on autopilot, then review in 15 minutes on Sunday. If one partner loves interface details, let them build the dashboard that shows balances and due dates. If the other partner loves cash flow, let them run the spend account and the weekly reload. The system is the hero. Neither of you has to be. When one person wants a new card for a bonus and the other person resists, use a waiting rule. Put it on the list for next month's money meeting. If life still supports it and the bonus aligns with actual trips or cash goals, proceed. Otherwise, the default answer is no. You will save yourselves from a dozen small stupid fights by letting policy speak before preference. If you run a small business or freelance, cards can be either lifelines or landmines. The line is clarity. Business spend lives on a business card from day one, even when your revenue is toddler-sized, so you don't commingle expenses and turn tax time into a detective novel. The same 4 rules apply, but Rule 1 gets an extra guardrail. You never borrow on a business card to float personal life, and you never borrow on a personal card to float business life. If you must invest in inventory or gear, you write the payback plan first, and you know the exact month when the balance returns to 0. Points can be useful for travel to clients or for equipment redemptions, but they do not justify purchases. Invoices pay cards. Cards do not pay invoices. What about sign-up bonuses? They are real money when handled like a grown-up, and radioactive when handled like a game. A single well-timed bonus on a card whose benefits you would keep can fund a flight or drop a few €100 into your buffer. 2 at once can turn your budget into a negotiation you lose. If you pursue a bonus, do it once or twice a year, never during a chaotic season, moving, new baby, job change, and only when your regular planned spending meets the requirement. Put the due date on your calendar, set the autopay to full, and set a second reminder to cancel or downgrade before the annual fee hits if the card won't earn its keep next year. You are not building a collection. You are renting one tool for one job and returning it clean. Protection perks, extended warranty, purchase protection, travel insurance are part of why cards can be worth using even if you ignore points. But they are only valuable if you know they exist and how to claim them. Spend 10 minutes scanning your card's benefit guide for the 3 protections you might actually use. Save the PDF in a folder called Cards. If a phone breaks on day 364, you'll remember there's an extended warranty. If a bag vanishes on a trip, you'll know a claim exists. You are not trying to memorize policy codes. You are trying to avoid paying twice for protections you already carry in your wallet. There are seasons when the best card is no card. If you are healing your relationship with money, use debit and cash for 90 days to rebuild trust with yourself. If you are exiting a debt spiral, close or freeze cards that trigger you and keep one no-fee card tucked away for credit history. If you've just experienced a major life change, run a simpler setup until your brain has room for nuance again. Cards are tools, not identities. No points are worth stress you feel in your ribs. Come back when the 4 rules can run without friction, not when a blog tells you a unicorn offer expires at midnight. Let's close by putting this into a week that looks like life. On Sunday night, you glance at your dashboard. Balance is zeroed by autopay last week, new statement closes on the 14th, rewards set to auto-redeem to your Freedom account on the 1st. Monday morning, your paycheck lands, and a split sends a fixed amount to the spend account that backs your card. You buy groceries, you tap for transport, you grab a coffee with a friend. Midweek, your alert pings, a charge across town. You freeze the card in the app, call the number on the back, the issuer removes it, overnight ships a new card, autopay remains scheduled. Friday, you book flights, using points you earmarked for a trip you planned months ago. You cover taxes with cash. Saturday, you open your minimalist family store. A kid buys a small treat with their own money because they planned, and you smile at the quiet echo. This is the life you're building. Calm, intentional, a little boring in the best way. The card was a payment rail all week, not a temptation. 4 rules. Pay in full automatically. Don't buy today what you wouldn't buy for cash today. Let rewards serve written priorities, not impulses. Keep accounts few, visible, and boring. If you do these, the rest, the score, the perks, the protections, will take care of themselves in the background while your actual life happens in the foreground. You will stop donating interest to banks in exchange for stories, and you will start donating interest to yourself in the form of options. More savings, more investing, more oxygen on months that ask a lot. The banks can keep their velvet ropes. You will keep your Tuesday nights quiet and your plans intact.